Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and this is a build for the TreeSpear and Elden Ring. This is a Dexterity and Faith build. It's a pretty powerful build overall. We're able to get a lot of posture damage, by the way, out of this weapon. We're going to talk about what you can do with it, how you can buff it, its Ash of War, everything you need to know about the TreeSpear. First off, this is a really fun weapon to use in general. It has a lot of range on it as far as being able to attack with it in general. The Ash of War we're going to talk about later in this video. It's actually pretty good. It's useful in certain situations. Again, we're going to go over that. As far as the weapon itself, though, one of the biggest selling points for the TreeSpear is it can be buffed with anything from greases to Blood Flame Blade to Electrify Armament, which we're using here. You can buff the TreeSpear with a whole bunch of different things and turn it into a very unique weapon. We're already a Dexterity and Faith build. This is a big bonus, by the way, and the advantage to being a Dexterity and Faith build in general, and we're going to go over this as well, is that you get the increased casting times from putting points into Dexterity while having a pretty solid, viable weapon, and then being able to cast and use whatever incantations you want to use with quicker casting times. For me is a big selling point on the TreeSpear alone, given the fact that if you're running a Faith build and happen to have points in Dexterity anyway, you can run this weapon as kind of a sidearm, and it's something that you can use on your own as well too. You're going to see in the fight here and later on the posture damage it does is quite good, and the damage in AR in general is very good, especially given the fact that we can buff it to increase the damage even further with Faith scaling buffs. You know me in my videos, I like to buff whatever I'm using, so the fact that we can buff it to get several different damage types is a little bit interesting. We're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of that as well. Obviously there are some, and obviously there's some disadvantages too with having split damage into 3 different things. Now, for the weapon itself, I chose Electrify Armament because I ended up having a lot of fun with it. It's one that I really like. Vike's Dragon Bolt would be cool too, but the issue with Vike's Dragon Bolt is it has a body buff and will override Flame Grant Me Strength or Howl Shabriri. This is New Game Plus 7, by the way. We're at max scaling. I mainly took on side bosses and whatnot for the purpose of this video because before I wanted to start my next journey, I had an idea of what build I wanted to do, so I just grabbed the TreeSpear. I kind of built around it and then took on some side bosses. The Magma Worm is a little bit tough, but again, he's not ridiculously tough. He's not going to, do anything too crazy. He can obviously damage us a good amount. He does have a lot of damage when he does hit you, but he is relatively slow. And we're going to mainly focus on the charged attacks because it has a unique charged R2 that basically double hits and then double hits again, and it does a lot of posture damage throughout this animation. The thing I highly recommend with the TreeSpear if you're at a really high level is to put it behind a shield, essentially putting it behind a bigger shield, say the fingerprint shield or something like that, which would obviously include a lot of strength investment. You'll be able to get a lot of damage while playing it relatively safe and make the weapon even better. Given the fact that I capped myself at 150, that would have been a little difficult to put that many points into strength, but putting no skill on any of those larger shields and then using that will actually help you a ton because you can poke right through it and then you can use anything you want as far as damage goes, charge attacks, block and whatnot, and add to the build and make it more powerful. There's something I like about, generally speaking, spear weapons because you can go behind a shield and get a lot of damage out of it. That being said, I do like the charged R2 best on this. Getting that double animation as I talked about and then getting it again does a substantial amount of damage, and as you saw before with the posture break, it does build up a good amount of posture too. Be afraid to play it aggressively with the TreeSpear. And by the way, I wanted to mention a couple different things as far as the TreeSpear goes now that we can talk about split damage for a second. Having 3 damage types isn't always a good thing because they all have to factor in when you're fighting a boss. I liked Electrify Armament just because I thought it was cool. You want to go with the whole holy theme and you want to keep it as 2 damage types, essentially holy and physical. Order's Blade is a very good thing to add to this in general. Again, I had more fun with Electrify Armament, but if you're looking for a more logical way to go about this, Order's Blade, which will add additional holy damage that scales with Faith, you do need 13 intelligence. It's worth it if you want to go with the whole holy theme in general and you want to stick to 2 damage types. By the way, once you're past that 13 intelligence, whatever seal you're using, even if it's the Golden Order seal, it's still going to scale with Faith. Everything as far as damage goes that we're going to be stacking on here, Electrify Armament, you can use Blood Flame Blade, Order's Blade, all of it will scale with Faith. Even if it shows Faith and Intelligence, it will scale, generally speaking, with Faith. Now, as you're seeing on screen here, Sacred Order is the Ash of War on it, and you can't change the Ash of War on it, and it's kind of just okay. Now, it will stop Undead from coming back, and it will give you 10% general damage increase that counts as a weapon buff, which is pretty good in general, but there is a lot of other better Ashes of War out there, and you lose whatever buff you're using or applying to the weapon. So if you put Electrify Armament and then you use the Ash of War, you'll lose Electrify Armament. So I didn't find the Ash of War that useful. I just wanted to show that clip. Overall, I liked applying stuff to it better than just going in and fighting different bosses and whatnot with the TreeSpear and taking advantage of the charged R2. It's definitely something where you're going to get a good amount of damage out of it in general. And you can use Blood Flame Blade. You're not going to get a ton of bleed buildup because it doesn't have the innate bleed on it. It's just going to be the 60 bleed, which isn't too much. Now, as far as the tree avatar here, I wanted to show you can also mix in different incantations. By the way, the Ash of War on this, if you are using it, will boost your incantations by 10%. But in general, if you're running a build like this, because you have high dex and a fairly good amount of faith, you can mix in different incantations and really have fun with the build. Keep in mind, that's the most important thing. A build can be very good, and it can be a lot of fun too. This is one of those ones where you can have a lot of fun with because you can mix in incantations while also using the spear, which is a fun weapon to use in general. By the way, I wanted to mention real quick as we're fighting this tree avatar, if you're not subbed to this channel, now's the time to sub to this channel. We're going to be doing a ton of Elden Ring content, Souls content in general. Definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now on to mobs, regular enemies and such we're going to go over using the wonderful TreeSpear. It is a very unique dex faith weapon. It's one of the few weapons, by the way, that you can buff with 3 different damage types. And yeah, you are going against resistances in that sense. It's not the smartest thing to have 3 different damage types, but it can be a lot of fun and you can make it work. Again, Electrify Armament ended up being the one that I liked a lot, but the most sensible one to use is probably Order's Blade. And I did throw in more incantations here. I end up eventually getting flattened by one of these guys in an attempt to use the glaive there. But throwing in different incantations is definitely something that can make the build even better. And it can make it a lot of fun too. It can make it really enjoyable to just being able to throw in different incantations and have a wide variety of attacks that you could do to the majority of enemies in the game. And we do have a long wait till DLC, and we're going to try to keep the game interesting in between then. Elden Ring is pretty much my favorite game of all time at this point, given its versatility, the build versatility, and the amount you can do with Elden Ring really truly is incredible. I hadn't even really used the TreeSpear that much yet, and I ended up having fun with that too. I have fun with most of the builds that I do, but again, we might be waiting for DLC for a good bit. In the meantime, though, doing mixed builds, mixing in incantations, weapons, everything you can do, the more you can mix up, the more you can make a build more unique, the more fun you're going to end up having with the build you're doing. My suggestion is overall, if you're looking to keep the game interesting, try a wide variety of builds, respec a whole bunch, try a whole bunch of different things, do a whole bunch of unique builds, do some difficult ones, try out a bow. That was something I had fun with because they're frankly underwhelming and they can be a little bit challenging. Try out tons of different things in the game, keep it interesting, and have fun with your build. If you can mix it up and do a whole bunch of different things with any individual build, you're going to really enjoy it. It's going to be a good time. All right, let's get into buffs for this one. This was a really good one. For buffs, first thing first, we're going to drink our tier. We're going to go over stats, build equipment, everything you need to know, and then we're going to use Golden Vow and then Howl Shabriri. We have investment in faith, so why not be able to use those buffs for an additional 40%? Then you're going to want to fill up your FP, and then we can use something like Electrify Armament to make use of it. You can use Shared Order or whatever the Ash of War on this is, and you can get the additional damage to 10% damage, and you can stop undead from coming back. But for me personally, I liked using Electrify Armament. I ended up having a lot of fun with it. Let's get into equipment. Equipment, we have the TreeSpear, preferably plus 25. Any seal will do. A faith scaling seal works really well with this. We did hit 52 poise, Axe Talisman, Sacred Scorpion Charm for the Holy Boost, Dragoncrest Great Shield Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, and then we have the Holy tier, and then you can either use the Faith tier or the Defense tier. Both of those go well with this build. And now let's get into stats for this one. For stats, this is mainly a dex weapon here, so we went for 50 dexterity and I believe around 40 faith. This is a good setup to make use of the weapon while also being able to cast a whole bunch of different things as well. If you want to, you can invest more in it if you're higher level. As far as vigor, mind, and endurance, make sure to get a decent amount of those. We did hit 52 poise though, that was pretty awesome. And this was a fun build all around. I really like the TreeSpear. Ended up being a really fun build, a really enjoyable build. And if you want to make good use of the tree spear, you can also put it behind a shield, as I mentioned, and Order's Blade goes well with this too. The Astral War itself is just kind of okay, but it can be fun to use, especially if you're fighting undead or you're running through catacombs and whatnot. If you're not on the Discord, definitely be sure to join that. There's almost 500 people there now. It's been an awesome community. You're going to want to be a part of that. And if you're not subbed and you love overpowered PvE builds, be sure to check out all the awesome builds that are on my channel. There's like an entire library there now. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys there.